I'm not going to read any scripts or anything like that. I want this to be very natural and very effortless as well. And also, if you're going to go through this course, we're going to spend probably a lot of time together, because this is going to be hours of material. So I think just me being, being natural with you and just, talking to you as if you were sitting here next to me, I think that's probably the best way to go about it, right? I don't have time or resources to make like elaborate editing of this video material, so I'm just going to go just hit the record and go through everything that I want you to learn. I do have notes, so I will be going over notes to make sure that I'm hitting every point that you need to know. But other than that, it's going to be very very straightforward and very very lifestyle, if that makes any sense. Okay, so this is just my desktop. I'm going to I have actually already Motionbuilder. We're going to use Motion, so let's start from the beginning. We're going to use Motionbuilder because this is, like I said, I've been working in the industry for 20 years about now, a little bit over actually, and the software, software I've been using almost uniquely is Motionbuilder. It is very commonly software used in the industry, especially if you deal with motion capture, and motion capture is just everywhere now. So this is the best software that I know. Of course, different people may prefer to use different things, different tools and different methods and whatnot. I'm going to be teaching you what I know, what I like the most, and what I think is the best. But that doesn't mean that's like the only way to do it, or that it's the best way even. So I'm not going to argue anyone that what I'm doing is better. Anyway, this is Motionbuilder 2018. Really, any version of Motionbuilder will do. They haven't changed almost at all from 20 years back. It's like the same program. Different companies owned it over the years, and there's little things that change here and there, but in the essence it's exactly the same program. So as long as you have a Motionbuilder, everything that I'm showing you is going to apply. And really, if once I get through like the very basic Motionbuilder things, and I start talking about animation, a lot of things will also translate to other softwares, but if you want to be like held by your hand throughout this process, and not have to wonder about like and try to figure out things on your own, I will take you through everything in Motionbuilder. So I think that's the best way to do about it. All right, so this is Motionbuilder 2018. I'm just going to full screen. This is a basic layout, editing layout that it comes with, but I am going to show you what is the best layout, in my opinion, to have for animation. So start with the editing layout. So if you go to layout and go to editing, you're going to see something similar to something like this. It should be exactly this actually. So first thing I'm gonna do is minimize this window, and I'm going to just kind of stretch it to about half of my screen or so. Next thing is there's a tab here called Navigator. Just simply grab that and drag it out of there, and just pull it to the outside. So this window is going to be like the second most important window next to the viewer that you're going to be using. This is where the F curves is, and story, and like very major important stuff. So I usually just stretch this thing all the way, almost like it takes like the half of the screen. Oh, and I should mention here, the best way over the years has always been to use two monitors for animation with Motionbuilder specifically, because it's kind of space consuming as you but other softwares might differ there, but with Motionbuilder you really want two screens. However, since the ultra wide screens showed up, it is possible to work on one screen. It is not ideal, but it is possible. I would advise you to have two screens for this. So usually on two screens, I usually have F curves. This navigator window is taking like entire second screen. I am going to use one screen for this course, because you know I'm gonna share two screens on the video, and also it is possible, so we can just stick with that. Alright, so this is the navigator. We have the main window on the left. This here, key controls, is something that we'll be using a lot. Here is also another thing. This is called animation layer, so pull these two things out. And the resources window as well, so pull that out as well. And also this here, character control. So as you can see, I'm really pulling everything out of this main window and making separate little windows out of it. The way you can also pull the transport controls thing out of there too. Let me grab this and just make some extra space for it here, down here. It is kind of nice to have this stretch over the entire screen. So let me just do that. Really, the way you organize these little windows here isn't really that important. As long as you have access to all of them, you can just do kind of whatever you want with it. I'm just gonna leave it like this. Just gonna make so that I have easy access to everything that I have here, without having to, you know, minimize anything or move windows or whatnot. So this is about the layout I would do, something like this. So I'm going to save this layout. I will create a new one here. So under layout, just create custom. I'm gonna call this a course layout, and really forget about it. This is something you do once and then forget about it. So let me just start this, or turn off this Motionbuilder and restart it and see if it's saved. It should have. Motionbuilder. And there you go. There's the layout. Oh no, never mind. This thing. Okay, so this is a little glitch that happens once in a while. When the windows are usually this happens when the windows stretch outside of the edges of the screen a little bit. So what I tend to do is kind of make them a little slower so they don't touch the edges. A little glitch. Don't ask me. Let's see if it works this time. Update current layout. Oh, you also want to turn off this auto update layout, because when this is checked in, anything you'll do, any move with window is going to automatically save to your layout. So I usually turn that off. Alright, so update current layout. I'm gonna click this. I'm going to turn off the Motionbuilder again and see if it's saved for me. Motionbuilder. And there it is. Yeah, see? Now the transport controls is also here. Okay, so that's the layout. Do it once and forget. I'm going to go through some very important keyboard shortcuts for you, and I highly advise you to use keyboard shortcuts, because usually everything that you can do with a keyboard shortcut you can do with little buttons too, but you want to be efficient. If you want to do this professionally, you have to be efficient, and the more efficiency you can build, the better it gets, the better it is, basically. You don't want to struggle with anything that you should not struggle with. So everything that you can automate and that you can make more efficient, you should. So I'm going to go through the basic keyboard shortcuts with you, and as we go through that throughout the course, I will be adding to it. I advise you to have a notebook and write down the shortcuts, but also, I mean, the best way to remember shortcuts is just to do it and repeat. So you can also, you know, play this video again or any video that I'll post and just repeat just repeat all the steps and just try to do it. Just try to memorize the shortcuts. Really doing things and repeating them helps you remember them the most, but write them down too. And that's what I did at the beginning, because otherwise it gets pretty you know, there's a lot of them. So firstly we have this viewer screen. To move it, you use a shift and a control on your keyboard with a and plus left mouse button. So shift left mouse button moves the screen around. Control and left mouse button zoom it out and zoom it in, and shift plus control and left mouse button rotates the camera. So everything is left, mind you, left on the keyboard. So left shift, left control, and left shift plus control, and the left mouse button. That's what you use to navigate around the scene. So practice that. Like I mentioned, you can also do that with these buttons here, but please don't do please don't do that. It's like you shouldn't have to look in a particular portion of the screen to be able to navigate. Like, this has to become muscle memory. Otherwise, it's going to be just, you know, it's just going to always be in the way. So that's the navigation in the scene. Some of these shortcuts, I mean, I could go through all the shortcuts one by one, but for many of them you will actually have to understand what they do in order to remember them. So I'm not going to go through all the shortcuts right away, but rather I will be showing you these simple things, you know, simple functions that you have to do in order to actually be even able to use the shortcuts. So this is going to be an example of that. So we have the resources. So let's add a little object here onto the screen so that we can do anything with it, like move it, rotate it, and whatnot. So firstly, the resources window is where you find little objects and markers and whatnot, and the asset browser tab is where we're gonna look for those. And then once you click on the asset browser, we have a little folder here called templates. Open that, and there's another folder called elements. In the elements you have primitives for different simple meshes, and you have different objects that you can use in the animation, like, you know, cameras, lights, markers, cubes, and whatnot. So I'm going to drag a let's see, I'll go to primitive and drag a sphere in here, just drag and drop. And I will also go to elements and drag a marker, and this is important to have these two kinds so that I can show you another shortcut. So marker is an object that many control rig parts are made of, and control rig is something that you use to animate characters. So this is a mesh. A mesh is simply a visual representation of whatever you are animating. So for example, when you're animating a human the body, the actual what you see is made out of mesh, and you never really use that for animation. That's just for you to see what's happening. What you're going to actually use for animation are markers, and there are different shapes and styles. But we'll get back to this. So firstly, I will select this marker, and now if I press T on the keyboard, it will bring the little arrows gizmo, and that you can use to move the object around. So now if you see, if I can if I rotate the camera, I can move the object up and down to the sides and whatnot. And T like translation, that's what the shortcut is for that. Next shortcut that you use in animation very often is R, like rotation. And rotation is, as the name suggests, allows you to rotate objects. You see this gizmo is now very weird. We will get to this in the later videos. For now, all you need to know is T for translation, R for rotation, and also F5, F6, and F7 will change your style of the gizmo. Right now you will use a F5 for local rotation. So you see when I press F5, the gizmo actually rotates with the object. It will allow you to rotate and move in the actual space of the objects. So even with the translation, see, so when I move the object on the Z axis, it's moving inside in the space of the object. Like the object itself is the reference point for this movement. So same with the R. If I go to R now, see, I rotate in the space of the object. But when I press F6, that will give me a global space. So see, now the object has its own rotation, but the gizmo is aligned with the scene. So the y-axis, for example, is a global reference of the scene. So I can rotate this object around the scene reference point. And same for the movement. So if I go to movement, to T like translation, and I press F6, see, now I can't move it, and now I don't move it in the space of the object like I did in F5. See, this is the space of the object. In F6, it allows me to move the object in the space of the scene. So for example, this is very useful. For example, when you are let's imagine that this is a foot that is moving on the ground, and you want to move it on the sliding on the ground, and if you were trying to use the F5 for it, the local translation, then that would be very tedious to kind of try to align it with the ground. While if I go to F6, see, now it moves in the space of the scene, right? So this X axis now is aligned with the X of the world. So that's where this is useful, to have these different spaces that you can manipulate objects in. F7 is something that we will get into in the future videos. This is a more advanced stuff. Do not use that yet. We'll get there. So for now, just F5 local, F6 global. That's all. That's everything. R for rotation, T for translation. All right. Next, you can see that if I put the marker inside of this mesh, I can't see it. But as I explained to you, this mesh is just a visual representation, and you never really want to actually select it. This is just a preview for you to see. What you want to select is the marker, but it is inside of the sphere now, so I can't see it. So in order to see markers and meshes at the same time, you press Ctrl plus A. And if you just click through Ctrl A a few times, you will see that it either appears or it disappears. So this is like a filter, like an X-ray filter view for you to be able to see all your control rig objects, and for them to not be occluded by the meshes. Well, again, you'll see more, more of that in the future. But for now, just so that when something disappears for you and you don't see it, you can try to press Control A to make sure that it isn't hiding inside of a mesh, right? Then we have, okay, perspective view. Okay, let me go through these a few more shortcuts for you. Control E is a perspective view. That's the view that we are in right now, where you can freely rotate the camera and you can see it as almost like a human eye, a very more natural view. Then there's a Control T is for a top view, control and also bottom view. If you cycle Control T, it's going to give you top view, producer top or producer bottom. That's like an orthographic view. This is useful for when you have to like align something very precisely, maybe with this ground or something like that. Then Control R is for the right, and again, if you cycle Control R, it will take you from right to left and back to right and left and so on. So this is the orthographic control, or orthographic right and left view. And then also Control F is front, and you guessed it, if I press Control F again, it will show me producer back, the orthographic back view. So Control T for top down, Control R for right left, and Control F for front back. But really, most of the time you spend in the Control E. And then to add on top of that, if you press Control W, this is a schematic view. This is very, very useful once you have more objects in the scene. Again, in the future videos, we'll be spending much more time here. For now, you can just try to remember that there even exists such a thing. This is for you to have a better clear visual view of what your scene contains. So right now you see we only have a sphere, which is a mesh, and a marker, which is a marker. That's what the names are. You can even rename it here or anything. Animatable marker or whatever. So there it is. And if I press, when I'm in schematic view, if I press Control E again, now I'm back in the perspective view. All right, that's the views. This is the viewing filters. Okay, let's start having having a little bit more fun here. So I'm going to delete this sphere, and I will just use the marker for now. All right, so I can move it around with my translation, and I can rotate it around with my R. Let's make a simple animation now. Yay. So on the bottom here you see a transport controls, and there's this is what I call a timeline. I don't know if it's actually called timeline. That's what I always been calling it. Anyway, there's a little cursor here that you can move around, and if you look on the bottom here, you'll see the numbers, and those are frames. Those are frames in time, and usually when we animate, we use 30 frames per second. That's like a standard in video games. So make sure that this is set to 30 FPS. So what that means is that 0, if this is the beginning of time, if I go to 30, that's 1 second. So from here to here is 1 second, then 60, that will be another second, then 90, another second, and so on. And so if I press play, I could click here, but like I said, you shouldn't be doing anything with clicking buttons. You should be using as much shortcuts as possible. And if you hold right control and press up arrow on your keyboard, your animation will start playing, and you'll see that this little cursor is moving now, and now it's stopped because the looping is not on. If I turn on the loop here, there's a little arrow, and I'll move this back, and I press Control up, you'll see that this thing is now playing, and because the loop is on, it will just continue playing. So you can see that there's 150 frames now in this animation. It starts from 0, it goes to 150, and we have 30 frames per second, so that's about 5 seconds of animations if my math is correct. 3 times 50. Yes. Okay. So we have 5 second empty animation of just nothing happening. So let's make it move. I'm going to, if I hit Control arrow again, Control up on my keyboard, it starts the animation or stops it. So it's like play, pause is Control up. Okay, let me bring this back to the beginning. I could do it manually with my cursor, or I could use a keyboard shortcut for it. And the keyboard shortcut for bringing the cursor to the beginning or to the end is Control Home brings you to the beginning of the animation. Control End brings you to the end of the animation. So play with that as well. Control Home, Control End, and write it down and try to use it as much as possible. There's going to be a lot of headaches at the beginning from trying to remember everything, but I promise you this is worth it as hell, because once this becomes muscle memory, you don't have to look for icons and like keep moving your cursor everywhere. Everything becomes second nature, and this is what you want. So Shift Control with left mouse button moves your scene. Your Control up is play. Control Home is beginning of the scene. Control End is the end of the scene, and there will be more. For now, this is the basic stuff. All right. Next, let's make this marker move. So I'm going to put it. I'll go to my T. Translation, T-Line as translation. I'm going to put the marker here where, let's see, I want it to like kind of jump around or whatever, or move up and down. I'll start at the beginning of the scene, and I will now go to my F-curves. And like I mentioned at the beginning, F-curves is one of the main windows that you will use in animation. This is like your, I don't know, your drawing board. And if you press F-curves and your marker is selected and we go to F-curves, you'll see something here like this. At the beginning, it's probably going to look like this, where this translation and rotation is green. That means it's active. So if I make a keyframe right now, I'm going to, the keyframe is going to appear on everything that is green currently, because it's like pre-selected for me. So I advise you to switch this from TR to selected properties. And what that does is it allows you to selectively keyframe the axes that you actually want to keyframe. And this is very, very important, because when you use these groups, these selection groups like TR, and later there's like selection groups for like body parts and whatnot, basically what happens is when you're trying to move a certain part, a certain body part, and you keyframe it, it's going to keyframe like a lot of other things that you not necessarily want it to keyframe. So it's very easy to get confused and get like a lot of like chaos that shouldn't be there. So just in key controls, just switch this to selected properties, and it will save you a lot of trying to figure out why the hell something is moving when it shouldn't have. So this is very important. Selected properties. All right, I have this switch to selected properties, and now I want to set a keyframe on this object. I'm going to select in my translation and rotation. Just select it with shift key. If you just click on it, it's going to select this, either this or that. If you hold the shift key, it's going to select everything, both. And then as this is selected and I am at the beginning of my animation, I now press the key K on the keyboard, and you will see that something appears here, or you could be outside of it, you may not see it, but then if you press F, it will zoom you into whatever you have in the scene. So, or A does that as well. So like I said, more keyboard shortcuts. Basically, if we have something in the scene, this actually also applies to the viewer scene. If I want to see everything that's in the scene, because it's easy to go somewhere, right? And not knowing where the heck you are. If you press A, it's going to just zoom out everything that you have in the scene to your screen. So it will find whatever you have. So again, A, and same in the F curves. Press A. Now this is not selected, so it can't see the F curve. So I'm going to have to select the keys. So I'm going to have to select this, and now press A, and it shows me the keys that I actually took. These are the keys I created. Oh, okay, one step earlier. The way I maneuver this screen is just like this. Just like the viewer. So it's Shift for moving the thing, Control for zooming, and there is no rotation here. So Shift Control doesn't rotate anything. So but Shift for movement, Control for zoom, and that's how you move around this F curves screen. Alright, so we have a keyframe. Keyframe in animation, in 3D animation, what that means is this position that this object is at currently. If I set a keyframe, it's going to remember that this object is supposed to be here. So if I go here, let's say I go to the 10th frame and I move it, but I don't set any keyframe, the object will get back to whatever the other keyframe is. So if I move this the time cursor now, see, it just popped back because I didn't set a keyframe, and it already has a keyframe that tells it this object is in this position. So if I want this object to be here, I have to also make a keyframe here in this where I want it to be. So because again, if I move it, it's just going to pop right back where it was. So in order to do that, I have to move that object and then press key one more time, and now you see that something happened here. And let me zoom into this stuff. So you see there's like cool curves that that you can see now, and just zoom around and see what's happening here. So you'll see that on some of these lines there is a curve, while other ones are flat. And let me explain what actually happened here. So so you will see, so this is basically motion. When you see any curve or any diagonal lines or anything, any shapes other than flat line in the F curves, that means there is a motion. And let me explain what's happening here. I will actually delete this just to show you so you can very clearly see what's happening. Okay, so see, I deleted this keyframe and the object popped right back where it was because it remembers this position from this keyframe. So, all right, what is happening here? I'm going to select just the translation to explain, to make it very clear for you to what is happening here. So as you can see, we have X, we have Y, and we have Z. Each one of these colors represent a different axis in space. So X is, if you look at this scene, when I'm rotating the scene, you'll see that there's a little gizmo here in the corner that is rotating with me. And basically, this gizmo shows you the different axes, the spatial axes of the scene. So the Y you can see is pointing up, right? Like when I see from the side the Y, I'm also going to switch to global. The Y is pointing up, the Z is pointing forward of the scene, and the X is pointing sideways. So what that means is, if I want this object to move sideways, I need to use the X axis for that in the F curves. So if I make a key now, I'm not gonna move this object. I'm just going to leave it where it is and just make a keyframe on X, just only on X, because I want it to move sideways. So I'm going to make a key with the button K. See, it created another keyframe, but even if I zoom into it really close, you see there's no curve, there's no diagonal line. It's a flat line. It's because this is basically the horizontal space here is time, and the vertical space is the movement. So in order for this marker to move, I have to go to, let's say, 10th frame. That's like 1/3 of the second, and now I have to grab this key, which is and move it, which is represents the space, and move it up slightly or whatever whatever much I want. And see, when I move this key up, I actually by the way, I grabbed this green cursor here. You can grab the key itself as well, but then you know, you'll move it also in time. I only want to move it up and down, so I grab this little green cursor here. So I have to select this key first, and then I grab this cursor and move it up, and now you see that the object is moving to a side. And so now if I play the animation, control up arrow, you see that the object moved to the side. And so from 0 to 10 frame, so for 1/3 of the second, it moved from 0 to about 13.6. So that's like 13 centimeters. So basically, this is very mathematical. So you can like calculate if you want. So from 0 to this 10th frame, the object moved almost 14 centimeters. So if you want it to move a meter, let's say you want this marker to move 1 meter, you can just select this key and just double click here on this number and put in 100, and now it's going to move 1 meter in 1/3 of the second. So let's try that. Control home for the beginning of the animation, and control up arrow to play, and see the object moves 1 meter to the side from here to here. This is 1 meter in the scene, but it moves really fast. Let's say we want it to move slower than this. Let's say we want it to move really slow, like a snail or something. So let me select this object one more time, but we still want to move it 1 meter but slower. So now we know that this up space represents spatial, represents distance, and the horizontal space represents time. So all I have to do is grab this key and just move it in time to the right more, because that's where the time moves, right? So when I play, see, that's where the time moves to the right. So if I grab this now, and let's say I'll go all the way to the end of this animation, to the 150 frame, so far that I can see it. Okay, so now and now if I select this frame, not frame, but this key, and just move it all the way there to 150, it's going to move 1 meter in 5 seconds. And press play, control up arrow for play, and you can see that this little square is now moving 1 meter in 5 seconds. And this is an animation. You're an animator now. Okay, but this is very, very basic. So let's do something a little bit more elaborate, just because you understand one axis now, I hope, or not. But I mean, repeat it if you need, if you must. But this is basically a very, very, very crude idea of what the 3D animation is. So let's make it. Let's make it. Let's say. Let's make it roll. Let's make it roll like as if it's a ball or something. So to make it roll, I'm gonna leave this 1 meter distance. This is just an example, right? So let's just leave it, and let's say I want it to seem to be rolling to the side, not sliding. I'm going to I'm going to use R for that, correct? Because that's my rotation. And now if I see, I can rotate it. So I see that in order for it to rotate to this direction, I will have to use the Z-axis, right? Like X-axis would be rotating it sideways. Let me just zoom into it a little bit. As X-axis would be rotating it sideways, and then Y would be like carousel rotating. I'm actually going to decrease the amount of motion so we can see it better, because it's a small object. Let's just make it move 10 centimeters instead of a meter. Let's just make it a 10. Boop. So no, so this is how much it moves. Let's make it 20. 20. Okay. So now it moves from here to here. So we can see it very clearly now. Alright. Let's make it roll. So I know now that this is going to be a Z-axis for the rotation. So I'm going to go to rotation now, because I know that translation is for movement, right? For movement in space. And rotation is for the for the object, for rotating the object, for turning things. So again, just like with translation, for translation you had X, Y, Z for different spaces. It's the same for the rotation. So you have X, Y, and Z for these different rotation axes. So Z is going to be the rotation that we want. For this, I'm going to go to my Z. I will set a key with the key K on the keyboard at the beginning. I'm going to press A to zoom into it, because again it was outside of my screen. So now I see this key, right? If I move it up and down, you will see that it's rotating. I will undo that. Control Z for undo, as everywhere. And then I will go to the end of my animation. Let's go to the end, which is Control End on the keyboard, and I will rotate it. I will make another key on the Z, and let me press A again to zoom in to what I have right now. And now if I select this key and I move it, you'll see that there is now rotation happening, but it is it is turning in the wrong direction right now, right? So why is this happening? This is because the this space space axis goes both ways. So you'll see that there is plus and negative. There's positive and negative numbers. So that means if the line goes upwards, if the angle of the line goes upwards, then that's a positive movement. So in order for it to go the other way, this angle has to go downwards. So I'm going to grab this key and move it downwards some, and see then what happens. And there's like a very simplified rotation animation, but I think you would agree maybe that it's probably rotating a little too slow. So let me move it down even a little bit more. Let's move it this much and see what happens. That's better. Let's move it a little bit more even. That looks pretty okay. Okay. So now we have a box that's rotating and turning. It's very crude, but this is beginnings, so don't worry about it. We'll get there. All right. So let me rotate it fully so that it sits flat on the ground. Okay, we have a little box that rotates. Cute. That rotates and slides. All right. So we now successfully animated two different axes of animation. So if I select both translation and rotation, I will now see both of those animation, both of the animation keys that I created. So, and I was being very particular with what I wanted to do, what I wanted it to do. That's why I created keys and then moved them. What you can also do is what I did at the beginning, so which is adjust the animation by hand in the viewer, because what we did is we actually manipulated the keys in the F course, but you can and I'm gonna do that now. We can also adjust the object by moving it or rotating it in the scene. So let's say let's see what would be a good example. Let's say we want it to go up a little. Let's imagine that there is a hill here, or actually I'm not gonna have to imagine anything. I'm gonna make a little what is it, slope for it. So I'll go to my primitives in the asset browser, go to my primitives, and there's a plane here. I'm gonna grab that plane and drag and drop it here into the scene, and now zoom out. You'll see that there's a plane here. Let me make it smaller. How do you make it smaller? You press S on the key for scale. So these are the three different modes of moving or modifying motion. One is for translation, that's T. One is for rotation, that's R, and one is for scale, that's this S. So I'm going to make it a little smaller. This is gonna be my little ramp. So I make it smaller and I zoom into it. Now I'm going to make a ramp. So I will just do R and I will rotate it, and I will let me move to the beginning of the animation with Control Home, and I will also move it so to make it into a little ramp, because I want this object, I want this marker to roll up a ramp, just to add another axis into this movement. So okay, so I have my ramp. Now if I play the animation, you will see that it's still going forward, right? Now you see how I can still see the marker through that through this object. That's because the marker this object is a marker and this object is a mesh, so I can see the markers through the mesh. But like if you maybe remember, there's a shortcut. It's Control A that will allow me, that will make the markers, the meshes occlude the markers. So I'm gonna use that right now actually, because it will be useful in this case, because I want this marker to climb up this this ramp. All right, so I have my marker. Let me move this lower a little bit so it looks better. Anyway, okay, so I have a little ramp, and I want this marker to roll up there. How am I gonna do that? I will grab this marker, and I could do it just like I did before, by making a keyframe and then moving the translation. I have a bird, and it's chewing my shirt right now, so I'm going to grab her and put her on her cage. Come on, bird. Time to go to your cage. Okay. Alright, so I could use the same method I did, but I was telling you just a moment ago that there's a different method, and I will use that now. So I want this marker to be up here, not down here. And I want it to be up here at this point of time. So this is 150th frame. So I will make sure that I'm at that point where I want it to be up there. And now I'm just going to grab it in the scene and move it up where I want it to be. Right here. Let's see what time we have. It's 50 minutes already. Holy cow. Anyway, I want it to be up here. And now if I press play, what's gonna happen? It's going to go back because I didn't make a keyframe. So again, let's go back there at the end of the animation and move it up. And now in order to make a keyframe, I have to press K on the keyboard. And you will see that it created another animation frame here. And you will see that it created it on the Y axis, and Y is the up and down movement. So now if I press animation, it's climbing up the little ramp. And that is, I think, let's see. I think this is good for this first video. It's there's so much to remember for you already, that I think there is no need to add more for now. This is plenty to memorize. So all I'm gonna do now is to make sure that I don't lose this, because well, you want to be able to get back to this scene, not have to always create new new scene and whatnot if you already have something going. So you will just go to your file and press save as, and choose your folder. I'm just gonna go to the desktop, and I'm gonna call it let's see, course marker climbing up. I'm doing something really bad here, actually, saving files on the desktop, but I'm gonna leave this up to you. I will advise you to keep everything organized and have folders and whatnot for everything, but you know, this is up to you. I'm not gonna tell you how to get your things or how to keep your things organized. Anyway, the file format is called FBX, and that's the file format that Motionbuilder uses. It's also very commonly used format nowadays in game dev. Unreal Engine uses it, Maya uses it, everything uses FBX, and this is an original, this format originates actually in Motionbuilder. Back in the day when Motionbuilder was called Filmbox, this is the format that they created, and now all the other softwares use it. Anyway, FBX is the format. I'm going to, there are a few options here. I'm going to get you through them really quick. Embed medias means that if you save, if you have like multiple things in the file, like textures and audio files and whatnot, when your embed medias is selected, it's going to combine everything into the FBX file. So it will make it a rather, it can create a rather large files, which is not ideal. So I would recommend to because I think this is checked in actually by default. So I would recommend to uncheck this, and also save one take per file. Turn that off. We will get to this in the future. Right now, just uncheck both options and then save your file. Save. And that's it. And now, if you next time you open Motionbuilder, let me do that really quick. Motionbuilder. Next time, if you want to get back to where you were, you can just go to your file, open. You will actually see it here in the recent files, but you can, let's do it manually. I'm going to press open, go to my desktop, and then here should be my course marker climbing up. Just hit open and then hit open again, and you will get back where you were. And there it is. You now hopefully successfully created your first animation, or maybe you've done this many times ago. But anyway, thank you so much for following this course. I will be making many more of these animations. I mean, these animation course videos. I don't remember if I mentioned it or not at the beginning in the introduction. My intention with this course is to take you from absolute zero knowledge and zero experience all the way to the point where you can get hired in a studio as a gameplay animator. So basically step by step from you know, how to set up your program, how to like move around to through making simple animations, and then going to like very advanced stuff like motion capture and animating human characters and whatnot, and animals or whatever. There's so many places, so many different places we can take this. But if you want to learn animation, follow my channel and maybe subscribe, or you know, or not, whatever. Just know that this is going to be an A to Z, a complete course of how to become a gameplay animator for video games. And thank you again for watching, and see you hopefully in the next one. Bye bye.